Hello everyone, and welcome to the first Captico Talks. A couple of weeks back, had a chance to talk with Mills, the co-founder of the uber successful studio Ustwo. This conversation started over an email that led to a face-to-face talk about ultra running.
In running, I think can be applied to life.
Ego, Succeilure.
Failure is only failure if you stop.
Monument Valley, and meeting with successful leaders like Tim Cook.
Vows that he spent with us was that he was extremely humbling. He was everything I hoped a good leader would be.
Mills provides deep insights to a wide range of topics, so let's listen in. And you were the first one that said, yeah, let's do this.
Well, I mean, as I say, apologies for not doing it sooner, but I think I just wanted to make sure that I was in the right frame of mind. I think what I've noticed a lot in the last few years of my life is that it's very easy to get led by other people and led by business and led by meetings that have been booked in. And then you end up just sort of waking up each day and just sort of like a robot doing things that you may not actually want to do that day. So, I'm in a very lucky position, I guess, that I'm able to, after working extremely hard for most of my life, to suddenly say, well, hold on a sec, actually, I'm just going to take a bit of a chill now. And I started by cancelling all meetings and saying that no one could ever book a meeting with me. Because I started getting lots of people saying, hey, are you free in 2 months' time at this time? So we can have a meeting. And I'm like, well, I don't know how I'm going to feel in 2 months' time at that time. So what I said to people now is, and I said it to you, is like, just text me near the time. Yeah. And if I've got the time and I can make the time, then let's do it and we're in flow. Yeah. So that for me is better. Now, it's not without its downsides because some people just don't meet me anymore, but I don't care. It's like, make it work for me.
Exactly.
So thank you again.
That's really cool. Like, that's like the honesty that you have here. It's great because I can relate that with your podcast a lot. Like, one of the things I really like your podcast is how, like, today in the world, we live in this world that is filtered by Instagram. Everything is perfect. And it's so refreshing to, like, listen to someone that is, like, you really look up to. So because you created this amazing company, and you and six and more people, I'm sure. And to see, like, you struggle as well. And you have these doubts and you have, like, all of this that it's common to everyone. And I really, really appreciate that. Like, why did you start that? Because you could just stay silent and don't say anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I think if I look back to when we first started, us two, we were all, me and Sinks and myself had a very simple idea. We just wanted to, we wanted to work together because we were best mates and we really enjoyed each other's company. And we believed that if we worked extremely hard and built a studio where we attracted other like-minded people who like to work hard, but also that were genuinely good people, honest people, open people, that actually work didn't have to be pure work. It could be life. Like, I don't see, just like you, I don't really see myself working. I see, this is what I do, So we were always very hell-bent on being very honest and transparent. I mean, we had, our studios, people could hear what we were talking about. We were very open about our business, and we were very real with people because we never treated people like employees. We treated people like people, and people have problems. Yeah. And we always expected people, and we always encouraged people to bring their problems to the work. I think a lot of businesses, for all sorts of different reasons, expect you to come in and be in a work mode. Like, you are at work, so you forget. It doesn't matter if you're having a breakdown. It doesn't matter if you're getting a divorce. It doesn't matter if you just split up with your girlfriend or boyfriend. When you're working, you're working. Now, that's not always possible. So actually, we were always, I was very early in my days. I just naturally found my personality was someone that liked to be. It's not like I like to be honest. I like to be Mills, which happened to be honest. And I would go to conferences, and I would always try to give talks that I said I would want to watch. And what did I always like? I always liked, whenever I watch anything, I like real stories. I like I don't really care about the finished article. That's kind of the shine, like the Instagram shine. Yeah. I care about what happens behind it. I'm sure you do as well. Fast forward to now, I think, I'm on a roll of like 220 podcasts down the road, and I do it daily. I found actually for me that it's like a daily journaling. And I actually found, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to speak exactly what comes out of my head, and I'm not going to filter it. I'm just going to use it as I don't even actually know what's going to come out of my head. I just know that once I've turned that podcast on, I flow.
Yeah.
And you know what, and I did it for me. It was very social for me. I didn't, I think everyone hopes that people will like what they do, but I didn't say, right, I'm going to become a professional podcaster. I said actually I want to build my own confidence up. I actually was, for someone who ran an extremely successful business, I still find it no easier to get up on stage. I still have my doubts whether I'm an anybody. I still feel like the world is laughing at me if I say something wrong. So I thought, you know what? Let's practice this. So I just flowed and I just talked. And actually, so what I started off doing with my podcast was I would do like a how-to, like how to start running, how to start podcasting, how to start. And I said to myself, right, I'm going to do 30 days of this. And then when I've finished, I'll finish. But actually I found that I really enjoyed it. Now it's become a daily diary of just how I feel, me, Mills, a 40-year-old guy who's going through a huge transformation, in that I've realised that I've spent 20 years of my life working, and I'll spend more working, but only focusing on my business, Ustwo, and that meant that I didn't really understand anything about the whole world.
Yeah.
Because I was just business, building out this lovely culture, which I enjoyed. But all of a sudden I realised, I poked my head above the Ustwo wall, and I realised, oh my God, there's a big wall out there. A big world out there. And I found that on my podcast, what the people that listen to it, and it's not, it's not a massive successful podcast, but I have like 300 or 400 people that every day tune in, and slowly it grows. And what I've noticed is that people tune in because they're going through similar things, and so it's not like the world is never going to become a super popular podcast, but it doesn't matter, because actually what I've noticed with all podcasts is people tune in if they think they're going to resonate with the subject. And I'm someone who's going through a crisis in many ways of confidence, a crisis of middle age, a crisis of what do I do next. I've built a huge business, but I don't really know where personally I'm going with that anymore. It runs itself without me.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy it. I actually enjoy saying things that often people think you shouldn't say that. But what's the point? It's life. Like, if you don't say the things you want to say, what's the point of living? You might as well be dead.
That's so cool.
Sorry, I talk too much as well, so you need to shut
like
me
that.
down.
I don't mind.
I'm very conscious. I'm very conscious that you've got to transcribe this. So
easy, no worries.
I'll speak slowly.
Don't think about it. It's like you touched really, really interesting points, because on your podcast you talk a lot about success.
Yes.
And what you think of failure, and what you think success was or is right now. And after like 200 podcasts, as you said, what are like the lessons that you take into yourself? Because you see this as a journal, right? How is success for you now? Is it different?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm still in the midst of trying to work it out. I think, what I do know is success for me when I was younger and when I was building Ustwo was about other people perceiving me. It was about other people perceiving me to be successful because I was successful. It was never about money for me. Money has never been an interest to me. Money for me should always be a byproduct of creating something that has value.
That's good.
I guess, success for me was achieving things that were done our way. So I always wanted to build what I call a Fampany, which is, I refer to it as a family company as opposed to a company, because I believed the majority of people think you have to be a business person to run a business. I believe that you could be two best friends and you could create more of like a youth centre or like a family vibe or a friend group, and that could be the business as opposed to it like thinking about a business. Sorry, this might be kind of confusing. I'm even confused. But so I wanted success was about being seen to do things differently, our own way, the way that I think is better for humanity. What I eventually started to realise that the problem with chasing that success dream, and I know me and you talked about this a while back when you first, is that it doesn't stop. There is no really finite success. I think I could very clearly write down hundreds of things that are successful, that us two are successful for, that I'm successful for.
Yeah.
But none of those suddenly, I never got to a stage where I didn't need success anymore. It never stopped. So about a year and a half ago, I changed the success criteria away from chasing some sort of commercial or I moved it to internal success, like feeling good, feeling healthy, hoping that would help me find happiness, because I think success is actually happiness and contentment, but I'm not content or happy particularly. I mean, I am happy, don't get me wrong. You go through up and downs. I think I would believe that success is not craving success, and I haven't sorted that out yet.
Yeah.
That, as you know, because you listen to some of my podcasts, I tend to have to sort of talk to try to get to somewhere, because it's quite a difficult subject. But
and I think like the way you like shift gears in your thinking, it's what makes the podcast really interesting. Because sometimes you say, "Oh, I like this," and they say, "Oh, I don't like this," because you start thinking about that.
Yeah, I haven't always realised it, but what I learned over the years is my way, which is the only way. Being true to myself means just being true to myself. I was never going to be really intelligent. I was never going to be able to do a really slick presentation. I can never answer you in a really slick way, because that's just not how my mind works, and I don't want to pretend to be like that. And what I learned through my podcast, that actually by just being myself resonated with people, and that gave me a lot of confidence actually. And that shifting gears for me is just the way I think, and because I'm just letting those thoughts go onto my tongue and out of my mouth before I've actually computed them. It's probably quite difficult for you to listen to what I'm saying. But I think,
really?
But
it's great. I really like that shift.
Okay, well, I think it's important. I find it. I don't know if other people need to do this, but I find that you've got to question the things you said, and it's only when I actually verbalise it can I work out if I actually believe it. And this is the same for my business life. I always like to try things. Like I can hypothesise or strategise about the way I'm going to feel if I do something, or I could just do it and make this mistake or fail, and feel good about it. And I just like to go all in and try it. And if I don't like something, I've got no problem in changing and going back. It's funny, me and my co-founder, Sinks, are very different. And that's probably why Ustwo is being successful, because we're two best friends with the same value set, completely different type of people, very different personalities. He would like to make a decision and stick to it. I would like to make a decision and walk out the meeting room and change it straight away. And that is a bit of tension. But anyway, yeah.
You talk a little bit about like your change, like that you were different. And I actually read that post. You say like, I'm 50 days in on a healthy diet. And do you mind like talking a little bit more about what triggered you to change that? Yeah. To change like
the diet and the
to change like the past miles and having this new miles, I'd say.
I mean, unfortunately, this story is a story that I hear a lot of other people, much more successful than me, vocalising in slightly different ways. But in short, when I was younger and I was very driven, and I wanted to achieve big things, and I wanted people to think that I was successful, and I wanted to be successful, and I wanted to grow a big organisation, company, Fampany. Oh my God, I've forgotten now. I put everything else first. So I put that success drove me so much that friends, family, me were all second to that. I didn't really think about. I didn't really think about my family that much. That I was very lucky in that my wife was very supportive of me. She married me knowing what I was like, but I was very unconscious of the fact that I just didn't see them for 15 years really. It was work. Me and Sinks was us two, 24 hours a day. And at the same time, health-wise, I didn't really look after myself. And as things got bigger, harder, more stressful, more people, at one point we had nearly 400 people, a lot of pressure. Like suddenly it's like, wow, we've actually created the very thing that we set out to create. And for a long time, Sinks and myself would rely on drinking beer and alcohol as a way to escape some of the anxieties, some of the fears, some of the confusion, some of the pressure of that being on our shoulders. And I realised I remember very clearly me and Sinks laughing, thinking, "Christ, we've been, drunk, not obscenely drunk, but we've done like it." And this last year, we've drunk every day from 4 o'clock because the beers are everywhere on every floor. Let's just have a couple of beers. And then you go home and you sit with your wife and you have a bottle of wine. And then you get up really early and you go straight back into work. And I woke up one day and I said, wait a sec. Monument Valley, which is a game we created, which was really the kind of, I think, the antithesis of success for me. It was 8 years of working, of releasing different games and experiences that didn't do very well, but I never stopped. I kept putting more of our money into it. I kept on going. I learned. We call it Succeilure, successful failure. And we got Monument Valley, and it was my dream. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be an agency that was also an agency that created its own products. And I wanted that product ultimately to be bigger than anything we'd ever done. And Monument Valley did that, and it became a worldwide hit. 160 million downloads, not all paid, I must add. Financially, it absolutely did. It was massive for us. It allowed us a lot of freedom in our business. But about a year or two later, which comes up to about when you're talking about, I just suddenly reflected. I looked in the mirror and I felt a bit fat. I looked at myself and I thought, I don't look very good. I don't feel very good. And wait a sec, I'm chasing success, but I got it a year and a half ago with Monument Valley. If I can't feel any different, if I'm still feeling like I need more, this is never going to stop. So I said, wait a sec, maybe I'm chasing the wrong criteria here. Maybe actually, if money doesn't really do anything, if being seen to be successful doesn't really do anything to me, maybe I'm not feeling good inside. I don't love myself. I spent all my life loving other people, giving to all of the Ustwobes. I put them first ahead of me, and I'd never put myself forward. So I said, what about if I focus on being the best me I can be? And overnight I said, right, I'll stop alcohol, and I'll actually use my platform of being somebody in our industry that's known, and I'll say, you know what, you don't have to drink alcohol, and I'm going to be one of those people that doesn't drink it. I'm not going to eat meat, I'm not going to eat sugar, I'm not going to eat bread, I'm not going to eat pasta, and anything. I just got overnight, gone. Because of my skill of being able to jump black and white, I said the next day I didn't care about it anymore, and I said, right, I'm gonna train to be an ultra runner, which is somebody who runs a long distance. I've got a 100-mile race in a few weeks. And I said, and I told, I did a little blog about it, and I just said, and I wrote quite a long blog that actually really resonated with people. It was the biggest blog I've ever written in terms of, I think, again, we talked about with my podcast, I think there's a lot of people out there that want to make that jump, but are too fearful. So hopefully by me making it, it gave some people the confidence. And I said, I'm gonna talk about this, which eventually became my blog, my podcast. Yeah. And I'm just going to be very selfishly focused on me so that I can have more energy to be better for everyone else. And, if I think the reason I also did that in parallel was that I noticed there were other people that I would look at on YouTube or in the community that were often older than me, that didn't drink, that were ultra runners, that seemed to be having a life. They were talking about this life of fulfillment and happiness, and when I looked into their stories, they were successful people in the past that suddenly realized that chasing that success wasn't right, and I really resonated with that. And I said, I actually do want to feel good. That's actually success for me. And so for the last year and a half, I completely revamped my life. I lost 3 stone. I'm now about to take on the 100-mile challenge, which is the very challenge I set out a year and a half ago to achieve. I feel extremely good, and it's given me a confidence that I never had even the 15 years before. A real confidence, not just before I didn't really know I needed to have confidence. I was just building Ustwo, simple as that. Yeah. But now I wake up every morning really early, which I love, and I actually, by and large, most of the time feel very excited about life.
It's really cool. Like you talked about running.
Yes.
And I've seen you shared with me a video where you express all your emotions during a run, and that was like really, really impressive. Like how you see like you're super excited in the beginning, and then you like at the middle you're like, oh my god, I'm doubting about this. How does running makes you think about things? Because one of the questions I asked you on email actually was, how does running impacts your mind, and how far do you have to run in actually to get that?
It's a very good question. So one thing, one of the reasons, so I go back a little bit, the reasons I wanted running was that I noticed that a lot of these ultra runners would talk about this idea of this kind of freedom through running, a chance to think. Funny enough, I also used running to start with as a way to listen to podcasts. I wanted to start learning again, and I felt like I hadn't learned for 15 years. And so I realised that at the very least, at the early stage when I wasn't really that into running, it's like if I went running, I could listen to a podcast. That was my time to escape. I didn't really want to sit at home just sitting, listen to a podcast. I had family there, so if I ran out of the house, no one could get me. And one thing I wanted to sort out by just stopping alcohol, becoming almost a vegan, a vegetarian, definitely, was to try to sort my mind out. I had a mind that I think a lot of people have, which just is increasingly trying to look for some sort of fulfillment, purpose, happiness, calmness. I wanted calm. I wanted to stop waking up and feeling high 1 hour and low the next. And I thought that maybe running could be a good balancer, and I actually think it really, really is. I always advocate for running because I think, in many ways, running is about moving forward. Well, it is about moving forward, unless you run backwards. And I think there's just something very, very nice there. Now, at the same time, because I'd never really run before, it became really easy to hit small goals and feel good about it. You run your first mile. Wow, I feel good about that. I've never run a mile before. I run my first 5K. Oh, wow, I enter a 5K race and I get a little badge. It doesn't mean much, but it's like, wow, I achieved something. Oh, I did a 5K 2 weeks later and I did it faster. Wow, that feels good. And you can very slowly achieve more. It doesn't have to be straight away 100 miles. It's taken me a year and a half really to mentally get ready for this 100 miles. And actually, I don't think I ever believed I'd really do the 100 miles when I started. So I think, in answer to your question about when you actually start to feel it, what I noticed very early on is that even if I did, very quickly I get the endorphin rush. It could be, I think when you're just starting out, you get it quite quickly. You might do a couple of miles. I just noticed when I got back, I just felt good. I smiled. If I woke up really early in the morning and I went for a run, I felt really good. If I woke up in the morning, I didn't go for a run, in the day I just didn't feel good. And then I would go running on the weekends, and I would go for longer runs, because this is when I was still probably doing a bit more work. Yeah. And on the week, I'd use my weekends for longer runs. And I just found myself stopping and writing long emails to the company or people or friends, or messaging and telling people I love them. And you just get this endorphin rush inside you, this freedom, this kind of bloody hell, wait a sec. The thing I kept thinking is, and this maybe doesn't even sound as deep as I think it's going to sound, and I don't even know what I'm going to say yet, but I suddenly realised I was a human being. Looking after myself on this planet was actually something that is a worthy endeavour. And before that, I think I'd taken for granted my body. I was just moving through life. I didn't really think of my body as anything other than getting me from bed to work. But then I started realising about motion, and I'm moving right now, and running was this motion, and it's wow, I feel good, and my muscles feel good when I'm moving. And then I started learning about yoga, and then I started learning about HIIT and strength, and I started learning about animal movement, where I could just move my body in completely different ways, and I would start just walking around on all fours, and it just felt really good, and I got so much good feeling, I still to this day, of just moving my body. And I'd never used my body. So I think running is it was a stepping stone to being more curious about my own body that led me down the yoga path, the boxing path. it wasn't like I knew anything other than I'm going to do a 1K today. Then the next day I wanted to learn 2K. And whenever people ask me now about how do you get into running, I just go around the block. My wife did it the other day. She was procrastinating. I need to do this. I want to start running, but I just said run around the block. You don't have to think about a road. You're just going to get a tiny run. You'll be back in 3 minutes. And she did it, and she felt good because she started thinking, shit, I can do this. And then the next day I went with her. We went 2 blocks. So it's just incredible. Like, it is incredible. It's a gift that the world gives to us that a lot of us don't use. And remember, for me also, I had also been really interested in people that I looked up to, people like Rich Roll, people like Timothy Sheaf. The more I looked up to these runners or vegan runners, the more I, went on YouTube and looked up these you can watch amazing documentaries about runners on YouTube, like this free content. And the more I watched it, the more I wanted to be like these people. And they were talking about these highs and these lows. And I said, so I was in many ways became a high and low chaser. I wanted that feeling. Like I drink a lot of coffee because I love that feeling of being really high. And I watched this one film, especially, that really resonated with me, and it was entitled Life in a Day. And in watching that film, it was about 4 female runners who took on a big 100-mile race. And what one of them says in it is that during that 100 miles, you will go through every single emotion you'll ever go through in life in that one day. Now I've got to do that in a few weeks. But that video that you referred to at the beginning was 100. That was 62 miles, and you could see that wasn't me faking. I was actually trying to capture the emotions. Like, obviously, I was very conscious of pulling my phone out. There wasn't like a camera on me the whole time. But when I felt a different way, I wanted to make sure I could piece together so I could watch later, like the different emotions. And you do see in it. That's the amazing thing. And actually, what you learn in running, I think, can be applied to life. Mentally, I almost feel like there's you, and then there's the mind, and the mind tries to trick you a lot, and it tricks people into believing they can't achieve certain goals. And that could be the ego. It could just be a mechanism a safety mechanism to stop people pushing their bodies too hard. But if you listen to the mind, you will stop running quite quickly. If you know that mind is just trying to trick you, you push through. So those times in that video where I'm feeling really down, I absolutely felt like, physically I was drained. I felt awful. I kept on thinking I could think of nothing worse than being in this position right now. But I also knew something else. I would always have the back saying, just keep going. Just even if you go to a walk, even if you just keep saying to yourself, just one more tree, eventually you'll come out of that doom again and you'll feel good again for a little while. Quickly run as far as you can with that. So it's just, I apply everything I learn in running and feeling good about life to my business as well. So when things are going, in the past, if a problem arose in Ustwo, me and Santos would probably get quite stressed about it. Blame everyone else in our heads, go to the pub, drink beer, complain. Life is so stressful. Well, now actually I chill a bit. I think, well, let's just look at this rationally. And I care massively, but I don't give a shit anymore. I say that quite a lot on the podcast.
So you feel like the running gave you like the endurance? Do you need it like in your brain, in your like way of thinking?
I think it did give me the endurance. It gave me. I've realised that you can do anything. I went from not running at all to doing 62 miles. About 4 or 5 months ago, and I never thought I'd do that distance. Like a lot of people say, it's impossible. No, I could never run 62 miles. Well, actually, I proved that you can. And actually, my last 3 miles were my fastest miles I did because the endorphins. I knew my family were there. I knew that it was going to be a big finish. You can actually achieve anything. So although I'm terrified about doing this 100 miles, and I really am because it will take me 24 hours of non-stop running. The fact that I'm scared about it is the very reason I have to do it. I keep saying to myself now, Mills, just pull out. But that's the mind saying pull out. It's not me, it's the mind trying to trick me. Yeah, I think it's an incredible thing. And I think, when people talk about mental health anxieties, talk about stress at work, talk about not feeling happy, I find it difficult. Personally, I'm not a doctor, but I prescribe running as a step towards getting better. You cannot start to mend yourself if your body is not fit. It's the body and the mind are one, and the fitter your body feels, the more your mind is free.
That's so cool. You just make me want to run now.
I was going to say, do you ever run?
I don't run. No, I've run like as a sport. Like we used to play football.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was cool. But you have like a goal. The goal is like actually scoring a goal.
Yeah, but running is the same. I mean, for a lot of people, I think I always try to say, and my coach, I have a coach now, a running coach. He's a brilliant coach because he teaches me running is fun. There's no point doing it if it's, you're not meant to be doing it to be hard on yourself. Like every run is just another learning lesson, a lesson to learn something more about your body, a lesson to take to the next run. Like, the fact of the matter is now I've done that 62-mile race now. I learned a lot. You saw it. I now know that I can do the 100 miles. It's going to be very hard, but I know how to eat properly now because I made the mistakes before. I know so much. So I don't think anyone should believe they can't run, because surely the body is built to move. Movement is extremely important, and now I think that's why we're seeing things like yoga becoming extremely popular now.
Yeah.
But the beauty of running is it's free. I mean, there is no excuses.
That's so cool, because you touched on the fear level.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I struggle the most. Like, for instance, having these talks today, I was talking to myself, you probably should quit. And I was like, why not? I just go. That's
quit in
it.
terms of doing this podcast?
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll do it. I don't care. Let's see what happens, right? What do I lose? And one of the things that we talked a lot about on email was ego.
Yes.
And we talked a lot about that. And I was like really fascinated on your perspective.
Yes.
And I actually looked into the dictionary to see what ego means. And on the dictionary it says a person's sense of self-esteem and self-importance. Like, how do you see ego today? Because last week I think you tweeted something like, I want my ego back.
Yeah.
And you talked about that on your podcast as well.
Yeah, I'm not convinced I still understand ego, and actually your definition of ego probably doesn't fit with what I talked about ego being the other day. And I remember when you first told me about, you wrote to me actually after listening to it, and I remember feeling like it felt like you were attacking me in some ways, and not in a negative way, but it was like what I took out of it. I thought you were saying to me that I was only trying to be successful.
I said something around like, do you think success means ego in your way of thinking?
Yeah, and I think my interpretation of ego up until then was loving yourself, thinking you're the best. So maybe I actually was misinterpreting ego as arrogance, because arrogance, I think, is you think you're the best.
Exactly.
And I don't think when you came to me with that, I was thinking arrogance, and I really didn't relate to that, and so I didn't really. It confused me, but it got me thinking. That was good, and that's what I loved about it. And probably then I did a podcast on it. In fact, a few days later. I mean, when I referred to wanting my ego back the other day, I think recently, as I've got cleaner in terms of my eating, my thinking habits, there's no alcohol in my body to sort of change my emotions. I just found I've gone deeper and deeper into my soul and deeper into a desperate search for purpose and meaning and the point of life. I mean, I've gone everywhere. What is the point of life? I realise there's no answer to that, but I'm searching for it. And I think I referenced wanting my ego back because I felt like when I had an ego, when I had what I thought was an ego, it was this drive to succeed and nothing else mattered. So I didn't think about what the meaning of life was. I didn't think about how my wife felt. I didn't feel like how my children felt. I didn't care about what my friends really thought about me. I didn't care about anything but us two and our ability to become defined as one of the best companies in the world. Now, I think you have to be like that I do think you have to be somewhat like that, which is more about focus, actually. You've got to be so focused to try to define something that becomes a standout thing, because the world is a busy place. Yeah. But I think what I was actually referencing was, although I wasn't happy then, I wasn't searching for the meaning. I had a purpose and I had a meaning. I felt like I did, and so I didn't feel as lost then. And now I feel like I'm very lost. Don't get me wrong, I think it's okay to be lost, but I am lost, and I'm perpetually searching for that next thing. What's that next thing if it isn't us two anymore? And so it was more of a sort of just an acknowledgement that I was quite scared and lost right now, and that when I felt like I had an ego, I didn't care about anything else. Whereas now I care about everything I say. I don't, even when I sort of see something that I don't like, I think, what's the point of me getting involved and saying something about that anymore? Whereas the old me would have been like attacking it straight away, and I get excitement out of it, and I don't really care if, So, that was it. So, ego's a confusing thing, because actually someone then emailed me, like you did, and said, what about actually what you were referring to was, all those years ago, you actually had meaning and purpose, and that kept your ego at bay. So that's actually what you actually I was like, oh my God, I'm even more confused now. Thank God Fabio's coming to help me out. But
the way that you described, it seems like you just lost your sense of purpose. Like, it seems that it's not about the ego, because if that's ego, how do you can create something like this? You know what I mean?
So actually, you're right. I think when you're trying to search for purpose and meaning, it's quite a daunting place. I think we've touched on that. Purpose and meaning is, feeling like there's a reason to exist. And for a while, and still for now, my focus has been on getting myself, feeling fitter, feeling mentally strong. Because what I have found, the more I love myself, the more I'm able to love others. Before, I loved others, but my tank was so low all the time on loving myself. And so I'd often go into quite dark places. But now I feel like, by investing hours and hours a day into physical fitness and mental well-being, I'm able to give much more to people, more focus. When I stopped drinking, one of the main drivers to stop drinking was I wanted to start going out with people and actually listening to what they say.
Yeah.
And not just being there, wasting time, talking absolute shit. I wanted to sort of be aware of my existence.
This is like a great segue to like the Fampany, because you mentioned that before. And one of the reasons I'm here today is basically, I remember clearly the first time I walked into this office, I was like, my God, this is like the creative garden or the creative heaven. Because you get that sense as soon as you walk in. You see like the walls are all painted, you see people chatting around, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, I can see that this a little bit of a reflection of yourself, like the Fampany and like the way that you structured all the office.
Yeah.
How did that came to be? It's like, it was just, how was Ustwo before it was like this big thing? And how, like, what happened to make it like the transition, or actually probably nothing changed?
Well, interesting you say that. It goes back to, the reason we started Ustwo, to create a place that me and Sinks personally wanted to be. When I go on, when I talked about doing talks, I want to give a talk that I think I would want to watch. I want to see people talking honestly and openly and not with arrogance. Me and Sinks just were two designers who enjoyed helping other people, which was our clients to start with. And we wanted to play it. I especially, of the two, wanted to make sure that I was enjoying myself. And that doesn't mean necessarily pissing about or joking around all the time, but it means actually spending time with people I really, really like. And it's funny actually, I'll read a message out that I just got.
No worries.
I think you can just cut it out if it's so boring. But I just got someone who...
let's keep it raw.
Yeah, let's keep it raw. So a really, really good friend of mine who called Dem. I don't know if you ever met Dem.
Dem Grohl something.
Yeah.
That was the first person I've met.
Yeah, okay. He's in the Nuno sort of type character, like super helpful. But he just wrote to me there's proof that I'm showing him there is proof. And he just wrote me a long WhatsApp last night. And he says this, mate, I have a few things to say to you. I'll just read the first one out.
Yeah, take your time.
I'm in Amsterdam tonight. This is somebody that left. He's written a lot about leaving us too. He loved us to so much, but eventually I helped him leave Ustwo because I think it was important for him to find other journeys outside of Ustwo, because he knew he loved Ustwo. He didn't know if he could love something else outside of Ustwo. So it was important for him to go, and I wasn't going to be selfish enough to try to keep him, even though he was probably one of my favourite people, just because I loved his way of being. He was a model Ustwo. Mate, I have a few things to say to you. I'm in Amsterdam tonight. There's a conference over the next few days, and they hosted the welcome drinks tonight. First thing, I bumped into Tolly and Danny White here. They're two ex-Ustwobes as well, from our New York studio. And it reinforced how much of a bond us two built. There's a list of countries I can travel to around the world that I will see a friendly face waiting to say hey. It means so much to me to have these people I can see once every few years who treat me like old friends. And when I replied to them just this morning, I said that's actually what I'm the most proud of. That when me and Sinks references a lot. The beauty of Instagram was that in the early years was that we started to see that on the weekends when we were with our families or girlfriends and we were wishing that we were at work. If you went on Instagram, you would see employees of Ustwo on the weekends hanging around together because they were actually friends. It wasn't like work colleagues. It was people who wanted to spend time with other. Ustwo was a place that was bringing like-minded, passionate people, different people, but like-minded, same values together. And Ustwo was facilitating friendship, not just providing a service to a client. And that bit really resonated with me because that's what Fampany talks about. Fampany was trying to brand to be different. I don't want to be a company. I didn't want to be a company. I wanted to be a Fampany. I wanted to be a place where we could party together, we could enjoy together, we could cry together. If you've got a problem, we talk through stuff. It's not to say it's not without its problems. I'm not saying it was perfect, because actually families are not perfect, and actually you realise that families are actually, it's actually not the same recipe, because families can never leave each other, whereas the beauty of a Fampany is you can leave Ustwo. But what I've increasingly realised now is that the majority of what I reference as Fampany now don't work at Ustwo anymore.
Oh, okay.
They're companies that are on the adventure floor. They're ex-Ustwobes that are Fampany for life. And so I just referenced like a family of company. It used to be Ustwo, I referenced it as family company, but then I changed it to what I understood to be a family of companies, and not just companies, but company, people's company. But the way you produce that is that at the end of the day, the two people that own the business, and this is the tone of a business or a Fampany, is set by the founders. It's a very simple thing. If the founders are two arseholes, they will hire arseholes. The arseholes that join will think, to be the boss of a company, I need to act like those founders or those leaders. So I'm going to mimic those moves in order to be appreciated. Yeah. Me and Sinks were, believe it or not, very humble people. We knew we weren't the best designers, but we knew that we could work extremely hard, and we knew we could be extremely open and real and raw. And if you're raw and real, people really, really look up to you. And I think they say, shit, these guys, even though they get a lot of things wrong, they're always doing it for the right reason. They're trying. Yeah. That goes a long way. So that's really what Fampany was about. It's being very open with your failures, and when we made big failures or made mistakes or lost money or chose projects that didn't work out, we would always put our hands up and own up to it.
And you call that a Succeilure, right?
Succeilure.
Well,
Succeilure was...
Tell me more about that. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, so Succeilure for me was, again, in the very early years, we would... I sort of took over. Sinks would really, if we were being quite simple here, run the client side of Ustwo, what is now called Ustwo Studios. That's where our client service agency is. They work for clients, that side. But I started to build very early on what would ultimately become Ustwo Games and Ustwo Adventure, which is our two other businesses. But in the early days, it was all under one roof. It was just us two. And I would use the money we earned from our client services, so we get paid by clients, and me and Sinks would use that money to invest in our own things. So I would take that money and I'd basically pay people, our employees, to not work for clients, but just to come in and do the crazy things I want them to do, and they want to do as well. And we had this. Eventually, we had this team of 10 of us that just every day would be just producing our own projects, and that became, at the very least, our marketing for Ustwo. Ustwo was becoming more and more known for doing great work for clients, but also using that money to put our own products and projects out there. And eventually that became things like Mood Notes or Sway or Pause or Dice. big projects and businesses eventually, but to start with, they were just funny little apps, fun things, games. I noticed that most people that were at conferences or at talks would talk about, you only ever hear about the massive success. Now, the problem I had is I had no success. All of our apps were total failures. They would lose money. I would spend £100,000 of our money, on a team for 3 or 4 months, and we release it and it make £2,000. So then I thought, you know what? I'm going to go and talk about the passion of making and about the real realities of producing something, and just how difficult it is to actually be commercial with that. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. So what I was trying to paint was, if you think of, these are not failures, these are what I call succeilures, so that amalgamation of success and failure. Succeilures, it means failure is not good. I mean, let's not pretend that failure is good, but failure is good if failure is only failure if you stop. But if you then do something next, you take the learnings from that. Like, for example, let's say you stop doing the podcast of this because you think it's so bad. That would be failure, because it wouldn't be failure, but it would be failure if you think of this podcast as meant to be a whole series of interviews. But so what you would do is you would take the things that worked and you would move it to the next interview. You might say it's only going to be 30 minutes long now, but Succeilure is about taking the successful bits from the failure and moving it to the next attempt and try again. It's very like agile mindset. Yeah. But in those days, I didn't know it was an agile mindset. It was just Succeilure. And it was funny because if you go on stage, I'm going to talk about losing shitloads of money, but I don't care because look, I'm smiling, I had a lot of fun, and you know what, we, as a consequence of doing this, we're getting a lot of respect, clients like us. You're being be honest, world, come on. And I do actually believe that I would put my hand up and say that I believe that Ustwo and me are part of this kind of wave of getting people to open up about failures and actually say that there's interesting things within that as well. I wanted other developers to know the realities that if you spend a whole year in your bedroom working on a game, the chances are it won't do very well if you don't think about the marketing as well, or think about making a game that actually people might want, or think about testing on people before you launch. So I was just putting out any bit of help I could to help people. So Succeilure, also Ustwo became, I believed it became to be known as a company that would have these weird words, Succeilure, professionalism, Fampany, exactly. Because again, doing things differently, like create your own name.
How does Succeilure led to the big hit Monument Valley?
Well, so Monument Valley was 8 years. Our first ever release, sort of attempt at making something that would sell, was called Step In. It's usually like your fingers. You were racing fingers on an iPhone. Very simple, but it looked cool. And we released that on the day my daughter was born. So I know that. Cool. So that was 9. She's nearly 10. So that was 10 years ago. And we released 16 projects. Before Monument Valley. So Monument Valley was, I think, the 17th. And that was a journey to get there. When I first started, it was me, Paolo, and we just sat in the corner, and I designed it and she developed it, and she was the first. We took her off the client project and said, you're just going to learn to be an iOS developer and we're going to release the game. And we released it. Didn't do very well at all. But then we thought, this is fun. I like doing this. Actually, I don't want to work for clients personally. Sinch does. I want to be able to say whatever I want about projects, and I want to market our own things. So we built another thing, then another thing. Then I said, Sinch, I want more people, because then we learned that if you do it just in your evening time and those people are also working on clients as well, it means the project takes too long, and it's you need a team that's focused. And that still didn't work. Then you realise if you make something that's really shit, people won't buy it, so probably best not to make something bad. And we just learn. We actually learned how to develop products. And by the time Monument Valley came out, we had learned that if you're trying to make a game without people with games making experience, the chances are it won't be a very good game. So by then we had hired 3 really good people, Ken Wong, Dan Gray, who's now the head of Ustwo Games, and brought those guys in, and they was mixed with the talent that we already had. Meant that we made Monument Valley, and I think the success of Monument Valley was actually that that cost us, I think we put out all the results
Yeah,
and all the money. I think about $1 million before we launched it. And we had never had a success before that. But what we had, I'm trying to think what floor we're on now. No, so the floor above this, in that corner behind you right now, is where Ustwo Games. Well, they weren't called Ustwo Games; they were a project team, just in Ustwo. And I said to them, "You can do whatever you want. You can behave however you want. You can, as long as I am giving you all the time you need to make the most special thing." I had a sort of a list of things that, I wanted it to be a game that could be playable by everyone. I wanted it to really resonate in the design community. I wanted it to win an Apple Design Award. I wanted it to be a premium game. I wanted people to say, "Fuck, I wish I made that." And it was this email that I wrote them all, and that's online as well. And I said, there's no rules, it's just creativity. And we gave them the freedom, and those people, there's 8 people at the time, spent a year and a bit heads down working so hard because they knew that this was a chance of a lifetime. And because the game was brilliant, and it was, but because timing was right, because I think we learned, we had all that experience. So I think there was a whole community behind us, and when we started to hype this thing, we finally had a game that actually lived up to the hype, not just something that we hyped that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And it was mind-blowing, to think what that's done to us. We're now making a film with Paramount Studios.
Cool.
The follow-up, we released that news a few weeks ago. So that would be a Hollywood film. We've done a very successful, infinitely more successful sequel. It was on the House of Cards.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's won every award you could ever win. But the best thing about it was that, kids up to grandparents love the game, and Apple continually promote it as one of the go-to games for the iPhone and iPad. So very proud of that. So in many ways, I don't think I can ever beat that feeling, because you can never go from nothing to something big. I can only go from something big to maybe something bigger. Yeah. But that jump, I don't think, is anywhere near as exciting as the never before touch success to success.
And one of the things that, on the way of all of this success, you've probably met the biggest founders we think of, those big, like Tim Cook. He was here, right? How was meeting these people, and did they give you any inspiration to keep going and
So Tim Cook, we took him he came down to our games company, and he flew in especially to meet a select few development companies and games makers, so that he could meet the very people that put the sort of work that makes his products look incredible. And don't get me wrong, I was very nervous which is weird really, because it's just another human being that just runs a business. I don't really know why, but I think I respected him for so much for what he's obviously built. And he was an incredible leader. What I learned in that couple of hours that he spent with us was that he was extremely humbling. He was everything I hoped a good leader would be. Someone who, wasn't about being arrogant. He took the time to speak to every single designer. He sat down with the mood boards, and he actually took his glasses off, and he had a real detailed look at the behind the scenes work. He sat with us and listened to the stories about how we had built Monument Valley and what we want to do for the future. And for someone who's obviously so important, one of the richest people in the world, runs the richest business in the world, those 2 hours I almost felt like he was able to switch off from the reality of his situation and just be a human being with us. It was a huge honour, and I was really glad that I met that somebody I looked up to was actually wonderful. Yeah. So it was incredible. And I think more and more now I just realise that everyone is just a human being at the end of the day. And what I've realised is, wait a sec, if I go through all these downs and ups, even when I've been successful, if you think I'm successful and I'm telling you that I still feel down and up, and I still feel like a fraud, and I still feel like I've got more to give, but I don't know how to give it. There's a chance that Tim Cook probably does as well. I don't know, but and actually I hear more and more stories of people that that I look up to that I've never met before, that open up about their own mental health struggles. We're all human beings. We're all there is happiness is what people chase, contentment.
It's so hard to have that clean slate and say that we are just human beings. It's very hard. Maybe the way we are educated or something like that. But what I found fascinating is like, how do you scale all of this to multiple countries? Because you are like USA, Denmark, Sweden as well, right?
Sydney, not Denmark. Sydney, Japan now.
Japan, cool.
LA, San Francisco. Well, you do it. I mean, you do it through learning a lot, but you do it through, at the end of the day, values. So the articulation of your own values is very important when you're building a business. Those values should be, and I've learned this only towards the end of Ustwo really, because I think we naturally just, in the early years when you're in a room with everyone, values are played out by your actions. Like, people can see the way me and Sinks interact. So we have like 6 values, and now as you scale the business, you need to make sure that they're actually on display. Doesn't mean as posters necessarily, but you have to constantly remind everybody that we essentially hire and fire by these values. If you want to be a good Ustwo, these are the values that you should adhere to. If you don't resonate with those values, you shouldn't be at Ustwo. Now, in the early years of Ustwo, I think we didn't really understand the utility of values. So there would often be people that we really liked, they were friends of ours, but something grated. There's a problem. And it's only when we really sort of sat down and articulated what our values were that we suddenly realised that one of our key, it's not one of our values, but let's say being a team player is a really important part of Ustwo, and it is. You suddenly realise, well, there's a problem with that person, because that person, although they're like a senior person in our business, they absolutely hate working in teams. That's why they don't fit into Ustwo, and that's why there's constant issues in this. So we have to help them move out of Ustwo, because if you can't, values mean nothing if you don't live by them. So actually, you make sure that people take those values with them, and I think we could do a better job of that now. Because we've still made mistakes. But I think at the end of the day, you have to, me and Sinks are all about empowering other people. Although I do like being kind of like, Sinks, for example, is pure behind the scenes. He doesn't want to be seen. He doesn't really care about it. He doesn't want to do interviews. He's not interested by that. I definitely like being more front and centre. But I also I'm driven by helping others. So I want to see our leaders be the best leaders they can. Like, I don't run any of our studios. I don't run a games business. I don't run adventure. I actually am behind the scenes of our leaders to help them, just reminding them how to think bigger, think bigger. We own this business. I want you to think big. I want you to believe in yourself, because this is your platform to do something great. I love that. That's why I love, when we talked about Dem earlier on, when he joined as a junior, I just wanted to see him grow as a junior. I wanted him to use Ustwo as a platform for him to ultimately do very well in Ustwo, but then use that platform to go and get an even more exciting job, a different job. So I think if you give people belief, then they'll go and they'll do great things. Yeah. And that's all it really is. Like, give people fuel to believe, and people are amazing people. People can start new studios. People can run 100 miles. They believe. They don't know if they can always, but if you just tell them enough, or you don't even tell them, you just allow them to believe. It does it, and I think that's for me why it's successful.
That's really cool.
That's why Ustwo is successful, but. A challenge I personally have had for a long time now is that Ustwo, out of necessity and out of a rational reason, is become a company now. I think you have to be a Fampany to get to the company, in my opinion. But when you get big, and we got really big, you have to put certain processes in place. They make sense to put those in place. You have to operate slightly differently. It's just different, because people have different requirements when the company's bigger. When you're all 25-year-olds, and that's how old we were when we started Ustwo, no one cared about money. No one cared about anything but drinking beer. I mean, those are the days when it was okay to drink all the time. Nowadays it's different.
Yeah.
But we were just a load of 25-year-olds basically growing up together. Now the average age is a lot older. There's so many people in us who have families. Money does, but money becomes important, and it is important. It's at different stages of life, different things become important, and us too can't be as irrational and crazy as it used to be, because we have to make sure that we're always paying people. I can't let people down and not pay them because they've got families, they've got mortgages, and so you have to grow up. Doesn't mean I have to grow up. So it actually means that in many ways I've pulled away from the very beast, and I'm very proud now. I'm so proud of getting to a point where I feel okay to believe in a new future for me personally that may not involve Ustwo. And I'll never stop being the founder of Ustwo, and I'll never stop being half of the reason why the values are what they are and Fampany is what it is. But my energy really comes from the early crazy times where where there's no rules, there's no process. It's just like sitting in a room, we don't have a clue, let's do something ridiculous. As in, like, let's aim for high and let's go for it. And so that's why I think this year and a half also has been about this transition as I've transitioned away from only thinking about Ustwo to thinking about me. It's about my role within the world and within my own company. And I'm very proud that now we have a CEO that runs, called Carsten, that runs our studio group, extremely talented, extremely inspirational, older than Sinks and myself, is able to do a lot of stuff in Ustwo that we were never able to do. Now, Ustwo was so good at doing all the things that every other agency can't do, in terms of culture, in terms of being real, in terms of creating a genuine vibe. We were so bad at a lot of the sort of things that other agencies just find so easy, like really being commercially proper, focused. And all the sort of lots of admin, everything. So we're doing that now, and I think that's why it's a naturally good time for me to feel confident in believing that my time is up in many ways. Which is, I've never actually ever said that ever in my life until now. But if you listen to my podcast, you'll probably be getting that feeling.
I think like our time is up.
Yes.
So.
Fuck yeah!
I have one last question.
Yeah, let's keep going. Well, this is where the board meeting is, so they can push us out.
Great. So I've read this somewhere. So if you ever meet with a person that you look to, try to ask them what is the pros and cons of being themselves. So what are the pros and cons of being Miles nowadays? Yes.
The pros. Okay. The pros of being me is I can get very excited about pretty much anything. So I now know that my superpower is to believe in anyone I speak to, get excited by them and enthusiastic, and want to be fired up by that person or thing. The con of that, I'll answer this twice, is I've got to be very careful where I put my time now, because I can't not get excited by pretty much anything I see. So I need to make sure I direct. If I'm aware that I can be very easily excited by something, I need to make sure I only take meetings that I want to take, or I only watch certain films that I want to be inspired by. Because if I watch a film, I want to be whatever that thing is, and I want to get it. I think the con to me is that I can't stay. I can't make a decision and stick to it, and that. For me, I'm fine with that, but for other people around me, it's very frustrating, extremely frustrating.
Exactly. Do you think that's like how the system is nowadays? Like, you have to commit with one decision.
Yeah, I think that's also it. It's like, why I probably I've trying to pull away from having any expectation on me, and this is what I say to Sinks, my co-founder, is I've got to a time now where I understand my inability to make decisions and stick to them, so I don't really want to be in situations where I have to do that. That's why I pull out rather than stay. But yeah, so I think it's great to be able to jump from decision to decision really quickly and easily, but it's not good that affects other people. Sinks gets extremely frustrated by that. My wife gets extremely frustrated by that, and that's selfish. Still, I'm not going to change it.
I like that, but personally. Actually, we speak a lot about ego a lot, so I brought you something.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what? This is the book I've never read, but maybe you've even. Oh, it's light, which is good.
Yeah, it's super easy to read as well.
Well, this will be a good. Thank you very much. He bought me "Ego is the Enemy." This is actually brilliant. I've referenced this to other people, but I've never read it.
Thank you very much.
Look at that double. You can more than happy to if you want it.
Thank you very much for listening, and see you in the next one.